Hello, hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy day before Halloween. Hope you're all enjoying your fall weather. Hopefully, you're having fall weather. Hopefully, you're not having a fire if you're in California. Here's sister. Here in Tennessee today, which is beautiful and lovely. It's still like 70 degrees almost.
Hi.
Hello, how's it going?
Oh, good. I'm coming in clear, I think, right?
So far, so good.
All right. What did you guys think, for those of you that are on or catching the replay, what did you guys think of us being right next to each other last week? That
Yeah,
was pretty
we
cool.
met in the middle in a whole new way.
Like we were talking in the middle of each other.
There was just existed.
But yes, and one of the things that I love about, at least in my opinion, in my experience, the conversations that we have is the conversation isn't done after we're done talking. Like Wendy and I went on this epic road trip this last weekend. We talked a lot about homeschool. We talked a lot about faith, which is something we've covered before. We talked about anxiety. I mean, it was just gave us such a good framework to then launch off and keep talking.
For sure,
I really
yeah.
like that. So
And actually, the homeschool conversation.
hopefully you feel the same way.
It seems like there might still be some skeptics or some things we didn't talk about specifically. So we'd love to hear that. Like if there's more of the conversation we need to talk about, we can talk about it again, you know? So if you have questions about it, or
Oh yeah.
if you think like, oh, they didn't really talk about this part of that or whatever, we would love to talk about it more. So please write your comments or let us know privately or however you want to do it, because we do want to continue to have those conversations.
Oh, messages coming in. Miss Popular over there.
Always, always.
So if you guys are just hopping on right now, this is What Do You Know? What Do We Know with Win and Wit? It is our weekly segment where we as sisters hop on at 1:30 every Wednesday, unless technology hates us or we're out of town or we have other things going on. But we're trying our best to defy the technological gods and talk about various subjects in an attempt to educate, inspire, and let's see what else, and bring perspective about all these topics. So as always, if you have a topic that you would like us to discuss or research or just say what we think about it, join the conversation. Let us know in the comments below, right?
That'd be super helpful.
I am the Whitney part of the Win and Wit, and I am a mom to my son Dylan, baby on the way, love my fur baby Rizzo. I am a small business owner in Northern California, and I love my husband very much.
I am also. I love my husband very much. I guess I have to say that.
But as much?
He's pretty cool. And I have 3 kiddos.
Uh-oh, I'm seeing a pause.
Oh no.
On the way,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, or is it paused on the live feed?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Are you asking everyone else?
No, I'm asking you.
It's like it chooses to work for a few minutes and then it stops.
That's so strange because you're very clear for me.
I am getting glimpses of you. I think it's enough that we can keep talking.
Okay.
That's good.
I can hear you. Yep. Anybody who's watching, if you can chime in. Are you getting clearness from the both of us? You keep getting pixelated and then unpixelated. So that's maybe what's happening. I'm not sure.
Lovely.
But yes, I'm a wife and a mom and a business owner.
That's just how I do.
Yeah, you just pixelate and unpixelate. I do things, and I live in Middle Tennessee. There we go. And Shyla says she can hear, so all seems to be well from that side. if you've missed any of our
Perfect.
episodes, or if you want to follow our conversation, you can go to my blog, gainingmyperspective.com. Give it a little look-see, and our channel links through the blog, so you can find our YouTube channel, catch up on anything you've missed. See us sit side by side instead of split screen side by side. We actually are in the same room on the last one. That's kind of fun.
This is our 27th episode?
I feel like maybe we've lost count, but hopefully not. Hopefully it's right.
Counting's hard.
Counting's really hard when you're skipping counting and, go on. Okay.
You should know how to count. So today we were going to talk about childbirth, because we both have had children, and we both had, that we kind of want. But there are things that we didn't know, things we wish we knew, and kind of just an overall feeling that we have about childhood. So we thought childbirth, not childhood. So we thought it was worth discussing today. So as an audience participation question to all the moms in the room, did you get the birth experience that you anticipated? And if not, why or why not? What went awry, or what went really well for you? Because they say the birthing plans never go like you expect them to, right? So have a birthing plan, but be flexible. I think that's the advice, right? And so what was your story, your childbirth story like with your 3 kids?
I'm pretty boring in that I had a pretty extreme abdominal surgery prior to conceiving children, which called into question.
Super boring.
Well, yeah, a little unusual, I suppose. But it called into question the mere ability to conceive or not. Like, that was going to be a question because of all the scar tissue or whatever. Praise Jesus, that was not a problem for us. We had no issues in conception. We've talked about infertility, so I'm super sensitive to that, but that was not our struggle. When I was pregnant with my first, I lived in Nevada, but I drove down to Davis, California for my appointments, because my desire was to have a water birth with no pain meds in a birthing center, which I found as a good happy medium to the hospital versus home birth, dichotomy, so to speak. And so I was aiming for that, but I saw 3 surgeons throughout my pregnancy. The first one suggested I do not give birth naturally and go for a C-section, given the nature of my original surgery and the risks involved. The second surgeon said, absolutely, have a natural birth, you're good to go. So of course I needed a tiebreaker. And the third one said, not only should you not give birth now, the surgeon who told you you could did not understand the nature of your original surgery per his notes in his file. So, hey, Daniel, he did not, the middle surgeon,
Yikes.
didn't understand my initial surgery, because it's very unusual for someone of my age to have that surgery. Long story. It's very beautiful. Needless to say, by 31 weeks, I decided to have a scheduled C-section. So I then transferred to Nevada for my care, because there was no need for me to be driving all the way down to California for, when I could just go to a C-section nearby. And so Cadence was scheduled, stop eating at midnight the night before. All my family was in town. Everybody made it who needed to be there, went in, had makeup on, hair done, showered, all the things, got my baby out. Merritt, same story, scheduled to see, went in, got my baby out, same story, freshly showered, all the things. Gage, my third, I knew it was my last babe. I knew it was going to be a C-section. I knew I would love to have more babies, but after 3 C-sections, the risks go up significantly, especially given the fact that I had already had an abdominal surgery, and I wasn't getting younger during this process. So I decided to have that be my final child. And I was really confronted with a lot of sadness in that I did not get any kind of normal childbirth experience, including like anything outside of a Braxton Hicks, like I didn't have a real contraction in any of my other pregnancies. So Gage was due somewhere in the early, like the 10th or 12th of December. And so I scheduled a C at the beginning of December, and spent that whole month of November praying every day that the baby would come on its own, because I just wanted him to choose his birthday. Like I just wanted to like have an experience of labor in any capacity, and
Sure.
weird to pray. I mean, I would literally be like, Lord, contractions. I was having prodromal labor. I was having, the Braxton Hicks that were getting painful, all the stuff. I was dilating a touch, but it just wasn't to the place where I knew like it's time, And so I would wake up and go, Lord, make it hurt today, please. Lord, make it hurt today. Day after Thanksgiving, spent the entire day in a feverish rush of house for Christmas, because I'm like, well, he hasn't come yet, so he's going to come home to Christmas magic. And I had an enormous house, and you were in the town, you were there. It was the day after Thanksgiving. Yeah. So I had hosted Thanksgiving, because clearly I'm not going anywhere for Thanksgiving. I can't. So you have to come to me, and I will make the turkey. And so that night I was in some pain with the contractions, went to lay down, and he kicked through my water. Like I felt him kick, and I heard a pop. Like I audibly heard my water pop. That's real. And
water pop, is that?
It's gross. It's like a gross water pop. And so my water popped, and I was absolutely thrilled, and immediately had terrible contractions, and was very grateful that I knew exactly the length of time that was going to go on. And I thought to myself, those poor women who just don't know how long labor is going to last. Like it just could be forever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I know as soon as I get to the hospital, they're going to cut this baby out. So like, good, because this hurts, So that's my story. So, I wish I had more of a,
Well, did you have any issues in any of your surgeries?
No, other than I dreaded it, and I didn't like it, and I get real nauseous from anesthesia of any kind. And so it wasn't until Gage that I had it. Like I've had so many surgeries, you guys, I should have a punch card. And I just in the last maybe 3, including Gage's C-section, figured out that, you can just get Zofran. Like as soon as you get the anesthesia, or as soon as you wake up from anesthesia, or whichever it would be. So Zofran is your friend, and that is my saving grace. Other than that, no, didn't have any pain, fully pain controlled. It's super weird. I did have the anesthesia come up higher than it's supposed to all 3 times. I don't know why, but it's not supposed to come past your breast, basically. And mine came all the way up to my neck, which feels like an elephant is sitting on your
suffocating.
chest. Yeah, it feels like you're suffocating. But my anesthesiologist, bless his heart, in the first one with Cadence, he said, it's going to feel maybe like you can't breathe. And I was like, I can't breathe, like I'm like freaking out. And he's like, take a breath. And I did. He's like, see, you can breathe. You can. So it feels like you can't. So I was like, you and your logic. Thank you. That's brilliant. So yeah.
And then also with all 3 of yours, you didn't know the sex before the baby was born.
Yeah, did not know the gender. And with Cadence, I guessed girl. Merritt, I guessed boy. Gage, I would have given you all of my life savings that it was a girl. Twas not. So that was quite a surprise.
Oh.
And I thought, as I was also getting my tubes tied, as you'll be moving towards that, I know as well. And so when they said it was a boy, and then shortly thereafter, they're asking, are you sure you want your tubes tied? Blah, blah, blah. In my head, I was like, don't say anything you're thinking out loud, because your husband won't let you get your tubes tied if you say any of these thoughts out loud. So I like processed in my head, like essentially mourned a girl I thought I was going to have, which sounds weird,
right?
But I was like, wow, I'm going to have one girl. I have a sister, as you guys know. I just thought my daughter would have a sister. I don't know. It's a relationship I'm grateful for. So I just was like, oh, how sad.
Yeah.
Like no more pink. And like, that's sad. So no, I went and got my tubes tied, and I told Tom after, and he's like, oh, I'm so glad you didn't say anything out loud. I wouldn't have let you. I was like, I know. That's why I didn't say anything out loud.
That was very smart of you
I
then
had enough
to
wherewithal
mum's the
to be
word.
like, don't talk right now, just think.
So
Tell me your story.
I've only had the one. I haven't had the three, like when, but I'm heading into the second one. So a lot of this stuff is heavy on my heart and mind, and it's amazing the things that you kind of block out to go through all this again, right? Because even if you get an easy out and a cesarean, allegedly getting cut open is the easy way out.
It's got to be.
It still is scary,
Super scary.
So with Dylan, my first and only so far, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I went to a birthing center, the same one Wendy mentioned in Davis, because it was highly rated. I didn't know there was a difference between a birthing center and a hospital. So for me, it wasn't until I started to feel a push toward natural births and water births and stuff like that, which was never my plan because I'm a wuss when it comes to pain and pain management, that I started to be like, wait, I think I might be in the wrong place. Like, I think this isn't exactly what I wanted. But that being said, I did enjoy the midwives, and I did enjoy them as knowledgeable as doctors. Although some people say, doctors, you have to exclusively see doctors. So trying to reconnect. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. So anyway, I was at the birthing center, although I did not want to have a natural birth. And or the least amount of interventions possible. That became my nemesis toward the end of my pregnancy. It's showing that my streaming is paused. Is it good for you?
Nope, you paused there. So what's your arch nemesis during pregnancy?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Do you hear me?
You paused. So what was your arch nemesis?
Oh, was the birthing center.
Oh.
But I'm seeing that I'm still paused. Are you able to hear me okay?
Oh, I was.
The birthing center.
The birthing.
Can you hear me now?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Because toward the end of my pregnancy, I was due on August 8th, and that day came and went. I'm sorry, August 9th. That day came and went, and I was not dilated. I was not effaced. I had nothing good going on, and I was miserably hot and pregnant, and would not induce me. They wouldn't even talk about it. So anyway, I begged and pleaded and threw a hissy fit. And it wasn't until 41 weeks and 5 days that they finally let me in, and I was knocking on their door. And then they induced me, and I went through about every induction method that you could ever think of. And nothing worked. And then it got down to that they broke my water in hopes that then that would kind of guide the baby down the birthing canal. And the baby was super, super low. But because I wasn't opening up and dilating, they then had to go inside and push baby back up, which was the saddest thing after all of this practice. Uh-oh. I said trying to reconnect again.
You're good.
You hear me?
Your internet, but I hear you.
Okay. So anyway, then although me and Babe were very healthy the entire 48 hours of labor, where I had my sister in the room coaching me along and my husband, then they said, you're going to have a C-section, which was something I didn't even have on my radar. I just thought it's going to work out and I'll suck up the pain and figure it out. So not only was I terrified by every induction method and everything they threw my way and all the pain, then they're like, you're going to have major surgery, like ASAP. It also was on the solar eclipse, which was really cool because Wendy and my husband got a really great view of the eclipse from the hospital room.
I was like, we saw a whole different kind of eclipse.
And right when the eclipse hit in the middle of the day, all of the machines that I was hooked up to started going haywire. So that was a little alarming, also kind of cool. But when the doctor came in, they said, like, these are all for different reasons. Like, one of them, the battery was low. One of them, the liquid was low. One of them needed to be recalibrated, but they all started buzzing and chiming at the same time. That was really strange, right when the eclipse passed through. So then I had a perfectly normal C-section, and I met my baby boy. I didn't know the sex, so that was a huge surprise, and an awesome surprise. And then this time around, I'm going to have a scheduled C-section, and I don't know what I'm having again. So it'll be a surprise to meet my baby boy or baby girl.
So what's funny is our mother also had C-sections, and with me had a similar labor to Whit, other than her water did break. She did have meconium in the water, which you did also, and
yes,
which is not terribly uncommon. It's not something great, but it's not like the worst threat in the world, as it used to be a lot more serious when I was being born.
Sure.
And essentially after 18 hours of labor, her labor absolutely stopped, like fully stopped. And that's what happened with you. Once they stopped the Pitocin after 48 hours of labor, and only 6 centimeters dilated at that point, they stopped the Pitocin, and you did not have another contraction after that, which is outrageous to me. So I wonder if it is something genetic, and this is complete speculation, that we are not we just are insufficient in delivering, potentially, like I don't mean to make it sound like that, but I've speculated on that because your labor went so similarly to mom's, and of course I didn't have a chance to labor.
Right.
So I wonder if that's something about that. But I also wondered too, even though you were almost 2 weeks overdue when they induced you, I wonder if we had the date wrong somehow, because the fact
I would doubt it.
The fact that
I know
you were
exactly.
not having any natural inclination towards labor is so strange at 2 weeks post due date. I mean, that's just very unlikely as well. So I feel like with Gage, I might have been an entire month off, and I thought I knew for sure.
Wow.
Because he came so quote unquote early. I think he actually might have been late based on when I went back and was looking. I was measuring full term a month early, and I thought I had a period that really only lasted a couple of days when I went back and looked, as opposed to the full 5. It was like 2-day period, and could have been the bleeding, and for your third baby, you think you know what you're talking about, but I could have maybe not known what I was talking about. But
so what are some things that you didn't know about pregnancy, like going in, or maybe birth, that
I
experience?
think the biggest thing I tell moms now is I had no idea breastfeeding was going to be as hard as it was. I mean, we get so focused on the birthing process and getting through that and recovery, and you're not going to be sleeping, and all these things that and then no one even said breastfeeding was going to be really hard. And I mean, it was I breastfed all 3 of mine for a year, not so it was fine. It was successful in the end for me. But it is really, I remember just dying softly that first week with Kay, and my milk didn't come in. Also, another thing I didn't know, when you have a C-section or an induction, oftentimes, essentially when the baby does not pass through the birthing canal, it doesn't trigger in the way that a natural birth would. And so my milk did not come in with Cadence and Merit for 5 days, which is a very long time. And the baby was definitely hungry by then. And so we did have to do some substitutions, which of course immediately makes you feel like a failure. I couldn't watch. I couldn't be in the room. I couldn't pump. I was just crying and like a wreck. And nobody, I was like, get out of my house, everybody. Don't even visit me, like full on. Just, that was such a whole thing. The breastfeeding thing. It was so much crazy.
There's a lot of pressure to breastfeed also. Some moms, for whatever reason, want to have the option of formula or exclusively
hmm
formula or whatever it may be. And there's been recent conversation about that agenda being pushed so heavily. And yes, I do support breastfeeding. I do think it's a worthy endeavor, but some women don't produce enough. Some women have to go right back to work. There's a million reasons why. And yeah, and I also didn't know your milk doesn't come in right away, whether you have a vaginal birth or a C-section. It's not an immediate let down situation. You have your colostrum. You have to be like managing the weight of the baby, and they're so young. They can't communicate at all other than crying for everything. And you don't know what that means, you know? It's a very stressful thing. For me, something that I didn't know is in my pregnancy, I had a lot of pelvic girdle pain, which is the ligaments that connect your uterus are basically, they're stretched too thin. So they aren't able to provide that cushion that your body needs as you're growing and as your uterus is growing. That was a lot of pain. And I thought I was dying, but it turns out that's fairly normal. And then also, the thing that I hate the most is the massaging of the uterus postpartum. They do it no matter what. And that hurts like a mofo.
I don't remember that at all. Not with any of my babies. I wonder if they...
Oh my gosh, it's horrifying.
Yeah, I can't remember that.
They have to do it. They have to do it with every birth because your uterus gets so big and then it shrinks back down so small in such a quick amount of time that I think there's a blood clot risk. There's just a risk of bleeding too much, too little, whatever it may be. So they massage it to make sure that it is in fact shrinking in size. And so they'll massage it a few times. Maybe the first day they'll do it twice. The second day they might do it again. It just depends. But when you've just been cut in half on your abdominal and then they're massaging right above that cut as hard as they can, I'm talking elbows in there, you kind of want to punch the nurse in the face.
I don't remember that. I wonder if it has to do with labor.
I don't think so. You might have blacked it out because it was so horrifying.
I do remember when I had my son, Cadence came and she was not quite 2 and she was in the bed with me and she went to get up and just put all her weight. Oh, I did black out and immediately, screamed and burst into tears and blacked out and was like, get her out of here, because she was freaking out that she had hurt me and I'm freaking out that she's freaking out that she hurt me. And it was just a terrible thing. Very sad, but terribly painful. So I feel like I would remember. Oh, I love this, Mariah. I love you guys sharing your birth stories here. Thank you.
Yes, and please continue. And on that same note, are people scared of childbirth, generally speaking, whether you've had kids, haven't had kids? Are you scared of it? Were you scared going into it? Or did you feel empowered? Did you feel like this is the coolest experience ever? I didn't think that, but but I can see why someone would feel very empowered in that experience, right? Because it is pretty amazing what we can do. One thing real quick I wanted to hop back to about breastfeeding is there's these pressures that we face before baby comes too, right? And one of those pressures is to take the birthing classes. And bear with me, I'm going to loop back here. But the birthing classes were good, generally speaking, if you have no idea what a baby is or what a diaper is or just the basics. No shame in that game. There's a lot of fundamental knowledge there. But I took a breastfeeding class and it was very much well, it might work if you do it like this. It might work this way. If your nipples aren't going to work, then they might do this. But anyway, good luck. And I was like, I do not feel like I know what to do. And that this made me more fearful about what the heck was to come.
Sure, goodness.
I feel like if I didn't have Wendy there to help me in the room, literally shove my breast into the baby's mouth, I probably wouldn't have been successful with breastfeeding.
That's what
I'm not even kidding.
Nurses did at my births were literally manhandle. I mean, I was still had anesthesia real high, so I could hardly lift my arms up even. and they were like manipulating my body. And I was like, hey, make it happen. I don't know. But yeah.
So maybe that would also be that if you think you're suffocating your baby with your breast, you probably aren't. That's kind of the way you're supposed to do it.
It's supposed to
I'm
feel
no
like
doctor,
that.
but
It's supposed to feel like that. So on that note, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, we're going to just wrap up here with some pressures.
Yeah.
That, you know, some different things that we feel pressured to do as mamas or pregnant mamas. But a doula is a great option to help navigate some of these pressures. And people I find don't really know what a doula is. And I am an unofficial doula. And by that, I mean, I did all the reading and requirements to be a doula. I just never got a certification because I'm not planning to charge money or anything. But I have been a part of or assisted a handful of births, including obviously my sister's. And what a doula is meant to do is help you navigate some of those pressures, help you talk through it, help you feel empowered to share your feelings with your doctor, or say no to your doctor, to the nurses or whatever, or have, you know, kind of stick to the birth you wanted or as close to the birth that you wanted as possible. So I think that's a great option. And I had a doula when I was pregnant for the third time, even though I was having a C-section, because I knew I wanted to be a doula. And so I wanted to have a doula. And even during my pregnancy, she was so helpful to help me understand that when I was pregnant with my middle child, I had antepartum depression, which is essentially postpartum depression before the baby's born, right? So the same kind of like, oh man, I was just a hot mess. And so I was very afraid in my third pregnancy that I was going to have a similar experience. And she was like, you're not, you're not having that same experience. And this is probably what you went through. And she just she empowered me a lot and helped me understand my choices. Even having a C-section, I had choices. And and being a doula in the room with one of my best friends having her baby, just being that voice or that extra set of hands when the husband was just tired. And the bride had, yes, I am a hot mess sometimes, Mariah, believe it or not, most of the time. My friend said absolutely no eating in the delivery room at all, like, cause she couldn't eat. And she was going to be a VBAC, which is essentially a vaginal birth after a C-section. So she wasn't allowed to eat because there was a higher risk of her becoming a C-section. And so her husband was dying. And so he got to go eat while I stayed, right? It's just another person in the room. And again, when it was time to do a check, check the dilation, she didn't want as many checks. And so my job in that was when the doctor was like, I'm going to give you a check. My job as the doula was to say, do you want to wait an hour? And just remind the mom, do you want to say yes to this? Because you don't have to. We can wait. We can kick it out. Just those sorts of things. So doulas are hugely, whether you're in the hospital, whether you're doing a home birth, whether you're doing a midwife or not, doula doesn't touch the baby. I didn't deliver any babies. I'm just more of the advocate for the mama. So that's a good way to help navigate some of the pressures that you're going to feel. What are some of the pressures you're feeling as a pregnant mom?
Well, I mean, Wendy kept everyone out of the room for me.
That's one of your assignments.
Which it's kind of, there's so many unofficial things that fall under the responsibility of a doula. And it wasn't just Wendy acting as my sister, because yes, there was an element of that. Sure. That's undeniable. But it was more that she was very professional, and doulas are very stick to, this is what you told me you wanted, so this is what I'm going to make sure happens. They run out and got food. You guys got food for me. You made sure that my delayed cord clamping was honored, things like that, that you kind of maybe could get lost in the shuffle when you're in labor, and delivery. But other things that I faced that I don't know if a doula would help or not, but the talk about the flu shot vaccine has been so heavy on my heart. And I don't want to start a big debate on here, but I generally speaking don't get the flu very often. I'm a pretty healthy person. I like to stay away from interventions whenever possible, unless it involves pain. But this flu shot has been something that at every appointment they have insisted that I get done. And I say, I will do it by this next thing. Not that I'm putting it off. It's just been a crazy like latter part of my pregnancy. And I just feel like I'm doing the wrong thing if I don't get a flu shot. And I should feel like I can have a conversation about it, you know? So that was one of the things. Some people feel pressure societally about hospital births. Like if you go water birth, you know, what are you, some kind of hippie? Like there's people who have old fashioned stances on that. The push for a C-section, I've heard this a lot. With other moms who have labored and have no problem laboring for as long as it takes. And then their doctor's like, nope, it's been 10 hours. We're doing a C-section. And so to feel like you can ask more questions, that's something that, you know, I felt a lot of pressure to not ask questions and just do what the doctor said. And then my last one was maybe specific to a birthing center, but they were very aggressive about my weight gain, where I've heard with other women in their pregnancies who had gained way more than me, it wasn't a topic of discussion. Baby was healthy, mama was healthy, end of discussion. For me, they were making sure that I knew I was obese, morbidly obese, and that this baby, you know, I was harming my baby. And I'm like, I think I gained 27 pounds with Dylan, which is perfectly normal. It's within the range, you know? So I wish I didn't feel so bad going in, like I was failing out the gate. So those were just a few on my mind.
I know too, with your experience, they were very much not wanting to intervene, which is, I was like, it's really funny being your doula, because I'm like, you are the least likely candidate for a birthing center. And like the reason they're pushing their agenda is because they think that you chose this because it's your agenda, right? So that was also an added kind of funny thing, that like we had to really advocate for intervention there, that we wanted the induction, you know, we didn't want to go past 42 weeks. And like, you know, it was just kind of hilarious. And I'm like, this is probably not what a doula ever does, you know, like how funny.
A reverse doula.
Yeah. It's like, but hey, my job is to do what the mom wants, right? Not like what my own agenda is. But on the flip side too, you said hospital births versus home births. I think sometimes the more, you know, the women who would choose a home birth will shame the women who go the hospital road too. So it goes both ways. And, you know, of course the argument, which I, like you said, I totally understand where this comes from, but that a C-section is copping out. You didn't really deliver your baby, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, trust me, as a mom who had 3 C-sections, I can tell you my body, my recovery probably
never the same.
Your recoveries, but in terms of it was way worse. C-section recoveries are terrible, but you know, I think we just need not do that to each other. Maybe like that would be my best thing. We are getting enough pressure from our doctor that we as women or people, men can chime into this conversation as well. Empower you to make the choices that are best for you and for your family, of course.
Totally.
As long as you're educated about the risks and rewards of whatever you're choosing. Yeah, I mean, I think that we maybe just need to like just be supportive of each other.
Be more supportive.
Gosh, it's hard enough thing.
And on that token, I think wrapping up, you know, I felt there was a lack of postpartum care in my birth, and I've heard that with a lot of women. So going into your pregnancy and into your childbirth, if you think your intuition is ticking off, like this isn't right, or I'm not feeling good, or my health is not good, be an advocate for yourself. If after birth you're just feeling like, I know people say you're sad, but this feels more than I thought, then advocate for yourself. That would be my number one takeaway, because nobody else is going to know what you're going through more, and you have to have the courage to speak up to get the help that you need.
For sure. Awesome.
So I think that's a wrap. Yeah.
That's our
so
thoughts,
next
guys.
week we'll be discussing surrender as a strategy. We have a lot of fun thoughts that we talked about on our road trip about surrender and you know, ways in which you can surrender and have it be a strategy for your life. So that'll be next Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, 3:30 Central. or Eastern?
Central.
Whatever. Central. So thanks for hopping on, guys. It was great chatting with you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.